How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the R2F Sports Channel. We have a huge week ahead of us. Fantasy Premier League Cup matches are starting this week. So I will be going through some players that I like for this week. So you got to stick around. Make sure you hear the players I like for this week while I'm going through my Premier League match predictions. So before we get into the video, though, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. And with that, let's get straight into the predictions. Our first match takes place on Friday between Brentford and Watford. I'm not looking forward too much to this game. I think it's going to be a very boring, slow kind of game. Although Brentford has allowed at least 2 goals in 5 of their last 6 games, so it could end up being a pretty high scoring game. Watford are a pretty interesting team. I know they've lost 3 straight games. Maybe it could be due to Ben Foster being out. Who knows? He hasn't played in those last 3 games. Watford, though, they either win big or they just lose horrendously. So I'm expecting a big game from Emmanuel Dennis. His price has been going up like crazy on Fantasy Premier League, up by, I believe, 0.3 over the last week. So I think he's definitely a good player to bring in. His price rise is just indicating that he's going to have a huge week this week. So I'm going to say Watford are going to come out with a win this game 2-1. Our first match of Saturday is between Manchester City and Wolves. I think this is going to be a fairly interesting game. Wolves haven't looked great all too recently. They've scored 1 goal in their last 5 games. They are looking pretty good defensively. I believe they only concede about 1 goal a game as well, but they're just struggling for goals at the moment. If you have Heung Chan or Raul Jimenez, I definitely recommend selling them. I have Jimenez currently in my team, so I'm definitely thinking of getting rid of him. He's just not producing any goals right now, so I think it's definitely smart to get rid of them right now. Manchester City, though, did just lose a game. They were on a 7 game win streak and lost to RB Leipzig in the Champions League. Um, they weren't playing their strongest team, though. I believe 3 other 4 defenders that normally start weren't playing, and Kyle Walker got a red card in the game. So, hey, what can you do there with that when half your team isn't playing? So, I think a player that I'm definitely looking at for Manchester City for bringing in could be Kevin De Bruyne. I think he could have a huge impact going forwards. He was just the Fantasy Premier League top player a couple of years ago, so I think he's definitely going to bounce back these next couple of weeks, especially because there's a bunch of games of the next 3 weeks. So I think he's going to play a huge role in these next couple of games. I'm also looking at Phil Foden as well. I think he can make a huge impact overall. But getting to the overall result of this game, I think Manchester City are going to cruise to a dominant win and win this game 2-0. Our next game is between Arsenal and Southampton. Arsenal very unlucky not to get anything out of that game against Everton. Although the game was kind of all over the place with VAR stepping in multiple occasions in that game. So just unlucky they didn't get any points out of that. They have lost 3 of their last 4 games. So have been pretty disappointing over that stretch, losing to Liverpool, Manchester United, and this last match to Everton. So some, I guess you could say they're good losses in terms of the opponent they're going up against, but I think Arsenal fans have higher expectations of those last couple of games because they haven't looked very good in them. But a player for Arsenal that I'm looking at, I think Tierney or Tomiyasu could be great buy-ins. I know Tomiyasu's price just went up, so a lot of people are looking to bring him in. Arsenal do have a pretty easy schedule coming up, so I think those could be some pretty good bargains. Tomiyasu at 4.7. I believe Tierney is also 4.7. Ben White's 4.4. So those are all some really good options that I have definitely considered bringing in for this week. Southampton, on the other hand, they're on a very bad streak of games. 4 games in a row, I believe they haven't gotten a win. Very unlucky not to get a win against Brighton. Conceded a goal in, I believe, like the 98th minute or something. So very unlucky overall for them. But I don't think they're going to get any points out of this. And I think Arsenal will keep a clean sheet and win this game 1-0. Next game we have this week is honestly the game that I'm looking forward the most to watching. It's between Liverpool and Aston Villa. This is the game where you have Steven Gerrard, after playing 17 years for Liverpool, is finally returning to Anfield, but it's to coach against Liverpool. So he's actually had Aston Villa line up really well this season. Defensively, look great. Going forward, look a lot better than they did in the first 10 games this year. So he's definitely changed some things about their team, and they look really great over the last couple of games. Ezri Konsa scored 2 goals, and I both look great. I believe both were off corners. I only watched the first half of the Aston Villa Leicester game, but Aston Villa did look very dominant going forward. So I can definitely see them scoring a goal in this game. Liverpool, I know they love to hold grudges against teams, especially against AC Milan, who they lost in the Champions League final against, just beat them 2-1, which I believe kicked them out of a Champions League spot. So Liverpool will do whatever they can to just get back at anyone no matter what. They did lose to Aston Villa last year 7-2, which was maybe their worst defeat that I've ever seen. So I think they will look at that game and just maybe just try to win this game at least 4 or 5-0. But you never know what could happen because Steven Gerrard's having a very good season with them. Dale Yota did not play in the Champions League, so I'm definitely expecting him to start this game. He did miss an absolute sitter last week, but against Wolves, so I think he'll bounce back this game and maybe score. I think Firmino could be back as well, but I'm definitely going to expect Yota to start just because he didn't play in the Champions League. Overall, I think Liverpool are going to be the more dominant of the two sides. Very attacking game. I'm going to have them win this game 3-1. Next game we have is between Chelsea and Leeds United. Chelsea, they've looked very poor over the last, I believe, 3 or 4 games. They've conceded 3 goals in both of their last 2 games. So very poor results from them recently. I think this is due to N'Golo Kante missing. He's missed all these 4 last games, and they've only gotten one good result out of all of them. So he's definitely a huge part of their midfield that they're missing. And overall, it's just made their defense just look absolutely terrible. So I think him missing plays a huge factor in how their overall team just functions. Um, Although they have been looking bad defensively, good sign for them against Zenit. Timo Werner scored 2 goals. Romelu Lukaku scored a goal. So you have both your starting strikers scoring. So that's always a good sign. But I don't know how they're going to look against Leeds United. Leeds just came off a huge draw in the last minute. Patrick Bamford's back, so that's a huge positive for Leeds fans. Patrick Bamford's definitely an interesting player to look at, though. Overall, I would hold off on him just because Leeds over the next 4 games play Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. So because they play these 4 teams, I would hold off on bringing him in for now, just because he plays such difficult opponents just back to back to back. So definitely hold off on him for a little bit, but he's definitely a good player to consider bringing in if you have maybe Jesus and you want him gone just because he's injured, or even Jimenez and you just want a replacement for a similar price. So I think he's definitely a good player to bring in, but maybe wait a little bit before you do. I think this game's actually going to be pretty close, and I'm actually going to have it go down as a draw, and I think it's going to finish 2-2. Next game we have is between Norwich City and Manchester United. Norwich, I don't know if they're going to get another point as long as Rashika and Matthias Norman are injured. Those two have definitely been their most creative going forward options. So with those two being injured, I'm not too sure they're going to get any more points until at least one of them are back. Manchester United, their last scoreline against Palace, it doesn't tell the full story of what happened in that game. They only won the game 1-0, but I think with Ralph Rangnick, the way they have them lining up, they could have definitely won that game at least 4-0. Defensively, they're definitely improving a lot, and I think they will keep a lot more clean sheets going forward. So defensive players are definitely good to bring in. A player that offensively I'm looking at is Marcus Rashford. Obviously, with the whole Spurs COVID scandal that's going on right now, a lot of people are looking to replace Son right now. So I would say Marcus Rashford is a viable option. He's looked pretty good under this Ralph Rangnick system. So I think he's definitely a player who could fill in that role pretty well. So overall, I think Manchester United are going to score a lot of goals in this. Norwich, I don't think stand a chance. I have Manchester United win this game 4-0. Next match we head down to the South Coast. First game of Sunday is between Brighton and Tottenham. Brighton haven't won a game over the last 10 games. This streak just seems to keep continuing. They haven't won a game since September. Of those 10 games, those 8 of them have been draws, which are all the draws they had this season. So Neil Maupay is starting to put some chances away, but they aren't creative creating any chances. I believe they have less than 20 created chances this season. So that's definitely something interesting to look at. Definitely need to bring someone in maybe. For Spurs, I don't even know if this game's going to end up happening because Spurs had their Conference League game against Rennes canceled because I believe they have 12 players with COVID or something like that. So I'm not too sure this game will go through. I'm, as I said earlier, looking to transfer out Son just because he might have COVID. I think it was rumored that he does. So yeah, I don't really know what's going to happen for this game. So I'm just going to sit on the fence. And because Brighton has so many draws recently, I'm going to say this is going to finish 1-1. Our next game of Sunday is between Burnley and West Ham United. Burnley looked very slow against Newcastle, looked very, very, very poor. So I'm not too sure they're going to look that good at all against a very hot West Ham United team. Um, Maxwell Cornet got injured as well, so their number one attacking option's injured. So I'm not hopeful for them at all to even score in this game. For West Ham, though, it's hard to predict someone to score or bring someone in for their team. They've had many different goal scorers over the last couple of weeks. The one thing that I have an issue with for West Ham players bringing in is that their defenders don't keep any clean sheets this year. They have, I think, 0 clean sheets over the last 6 or 7 games. So it's definitely hard to bring in West Ham players. I think the best one to bring in would be Jared Bowen. He's definitely the best option, I would say. He's contributed for most of their goals, apart from Mikel Antonio, who hasn't scored in, I believe, 3 or 4 games. So I think Jared Bowen's definitely the best option. I think West Ham will cruise through an easy win this week and win this game 2-0. Second last game we have this week is between Leicester City and Newcastle. Leicester City, very poor start to the season. In terms of goals conceded, they're bottom 5. They are scoring goals though, but they cannot keep any clean sheets this year. 1 clean sheet between all 15 games this year. So very poor defensively. I just wonder what's changed from this season to last season. That's just completely different for them. Offensively, they've been pretty good though. Jamie Vardy, James Madison, both playing pretty well. Over to Newcastle though, first win of the season, so congratulations to them. It only took 15 games to finally get that done. Along with that win came their best performance of the season as well. Not only did they finally win a game, they finally looked very good in the game. I think they definitely could have scored at least 2 or 3 more. They missed some pretty big chances in that game, so it definitely could have been a higher scoring game for them. As I said a couple of weeks ago, Callum Wilson will definitely benefit from the Eddie Howe system, and it has proven to be facts. 2 goals in the last 2 games, although one of them being a penalty. He has looked very solid. I think his price will continue to rise as he continues to score. And I think he definitely will score in this game, but I think Leicester will get the better of the 2 teams and win this game 3-2. Our final game this week is between Crystal Palace and Everton. Everton very lucky to win last week. They won the game 2-1 against Arsenal. It was a very close game. Everton had 2 goals ruled out because of VAR. They also had a red card rescinded because of VAR, which I think definitely was a red card. Godfrey stepped on Tomiyasu's face, which although it might not have been intentionally, it's still a violent conduct play, which should have resulted in a red card, in my opinion. So moving on, though, I think they definitely have a good chance to win this game, start a little streak going. But for Crystal Palace, I believe Joachim Anderson should be back for this game. So he's definitely been one of their best players this year, defensively and creating chances. So him potentially being back for this game is just making me very happy as a Palace fan, as their defense has been very poor over the last 3 games. I think something definitely needs to change. There's been no midfield control over these last 3 games for Palace. Although I think they need to play their forwards in the right position. Whenever Odsonne-Édouard plays, he always plays as a left winger rather than the striker that they bought him for. I think this is due to Zaha just flipping over as a striker. So I feel like Odsonne-Édouard needs to start this game as a striker, and I think he will deliver some goals, as we saw against Tottenham in the beginning of the year and against Arsenal as well. So he scored against some pretty good teams, but I think they need to play him in the correct position for him to score. With that being said, though, I think Palace can definitely get a result out of this and win this game 2-1. Those have been my Premier League predictions from match day 16. As always, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Comment down below your players that you're looking to bring in, or just some FPL advice that you want from me, whether it be to bring in some player or get rid of some player. With that being said, though, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.